Dend is 21 from Barrow-in-Furness and is in the second year of a full-time primary education degree with QTS.
Hi Mum. Yeah, I've just finished. Do you need any shopping? Okay, bye.
Emma also has a huge responsibility as a part-time carer for her mum, who is partially housebound. This means her school and home responsibilities require a lot of juggling and hard work. As part of her course, Emma has to undertake various work placements and is currently working with the reception class at St George's C of E in Barrow. She's being mentored by Margaret Thornley, a reception teacher who has 12 years teaching under her belt. Like many staff at the school, Margaret is a very experienced mentor and today is helping Emma prepare for a design and technology group teaching session.
The mentoring's going really well. Emma's been with us 2.5 weeks now and we've built up a really positive relationship and I'm enjoying sharing my experiences with her. It's really important to get to know your student well, not just within the school environment but also to find out about their lives outside, so that you're aware of their home situation and perhaps what their interests are as well. And then you get to know the whole person, not just the teaching student. So have you got your lesson plan with you?
Yeah, I'll show it to you now.
Right, so this morning you're going to be doing a DT activity, testing boats in water. Okay, so concentration on floating and sinking. Right, your lesson plan looks really good. So what sort of resources do you need to get out this morning?
Well, I've made some boat templates, so I'm going to be using A4 sheets of paper.
Do you want me to help you with anything?
No, everything's set up and ready to go.
Okay, if you need to move the furniture around, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't worry about it, just try and relax and be your normal self. Right, time's getting on now, so if you want to go and get your area prepared,
yeah,
and I'll get sorted for the children, and then we should be right for when they come in.
Okay.
Right, what do you think we're doing today? You don't know. Well,
Colouring in.
we're colouring in, but can you see these templates that we've got here? Because they're a triangle shape, they look like boats, so we're going to make some boats. And this is what it's going to look like. So what I want you to do, we're going to make 2 boats each. There's some felt tip pens and there's some more. So would you like to decorate your boats for me?
Emma's DT group teaching goes well, and now it's time for Margaret to feed back to Emma, based on her observations, to enable them to set Emma's targets together. Today they'll do this by watching back a video of Emma's teaching.
So we'll watch the film and I'll keep pausing it whenever there's something that I feel of interest that we can talk about. Similarly, if you want me to stop it at any time, you just say.
Okay, thank you. We're going to make 2 boats each. So the first boat, I want you to colour in with felt tip pens. So there's some felt tip pens and there's some more. So would you like to decorate your boats for me?
And one thing I was particularly pleased with is that you've got all your resources out ready. So you're very well prepared. And that's so important when you're working with a group of children, that you don't settle them down and then you're jumping up and down and looking for things that you need.
Yeah, we're only going to do 2 more minutes of the colour and then we're going to start cutting out our boats, okay?
Add 2 different colours. I've done.
So I've done. Shauna's finished colouring in. Anybody else nearly finished? Oh, Leon's finished. Just a few more seconds.
I've just stopped it there. I want you to have a little think about the fact it's taken quite a long time for the children to do their colouring. Do you think that was an important element of the activity, thinking about your learning objectives?
It could have been that they just made the boats instead of decorating them.
Mm-hmm.
It was just that, the second boat that they're making, it was wax crayons. I thought if they put a bit of colour onto this boat as well, then it sort of helped them sort of visualise that when they actually put it in the water, the paper goes soggy, but also that the colours would run. Whereas on the wax, they didn't. It just stayed onto the boat. Colours didn't run. It was like a protector against the water.
Yeah, I think you've just got to be quite clear about what you're wanting the children to get out of the activity. We have to remember they're only 4 and 5 and they've got a limited attention span, and these children are obviously quite bright little group and they manage to concentrate all that time. And you need to think about how you would differentiate it perhaps for children whose concentration isn't quite as long as these children.
I realised that in a task as well, and so I noticed that it was becoming lengthy as they were colouring, so I started to say like, oh, you've only got 2 minutes left to colour.
That was good. Yeah, I did notice that you actually gave them a time limit later on, and that's quite important just to keep the pace going on the lesson. I mean, another thing you could have thought about with your colouring is you've given the children the fine felt tips. Yeah. Perhaps if you'd given them the chunky marker pens, then it would have speeded the whole process up a bit. So you just need to think about that, about which is appropriate resources to use.
Yeah.
So have a look at a little bit more.
Okay. You can find the outside for me.
Well done. Let's have a look, Leon. Oh, well done.
Again, when you were praising Leon, that was great. It's really good to give children lots of encouragement and praise. Just try and be quite specific when you praise them so that they know what you're praising them for. Well done, Leon, for cutting out on your line. Instead of just well done, Leon, he doesn't perhaps quite know why. He's done something that's good. Yeah. And then the other children will pick up on that, oh, Leon's done really well because he's cut on his line. Yeah. So I could try and do that. And then she might say, well done to me too.
Oh, that's a good swirl. What shape's that one?
A square.
Well done. What other shapes can you think of that you can draw?
Triangles.
That's a good idea, Courtney.
Oh,
Can you draw a triangle? And rectangles. Well done.
Look.
So what do you feel you were doing there that was quite important?
Well, it just sort of progressed in the lesson. They've been doing about shapes and space in their maths lessons, and because he started drawing circles and swirls, it sort of developed into him drawing other shapes. So I thought I'd reinforce that as well by asking him what the shapes were, and so he could see if he could tell me what they were really. So it sort of helped build on what he already knew.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's what we should be thinking about all the time, to think about those cross-curricular links and how you can reinforce prior learning. So that was well done.
Cutting out now.
Yeah, I finished.
Right, so what we need to do is to get your pair of scissors. And what I want you to do is carefully cut around the lines on the outside of the template. Very good cutting. You stop cutting there, cut round the outside, leave those lines in for me. We'll put a bit of sellotape on in a minute. It's okay, we'll fix it in a minute, don't worry.
So a couple of points there. First of all, you were very reassuring to Jack. He wasn't at all concerned that he'd done it wrong. He didn't feel like he'd failed in that activity because you were so calm and gentle with it and said, oh, it's all right, we'll fix it with sellotape afterwards. It was no big deal. No. Some children, if you'd taken the wrong approach with them and said, oh, you're doing that wrong, that's not right, might have given up. But he was quite happy to carry on because you'd just done it in such a calm way with him. So that was really good, the way you handled that. But I just think it might be useful when you're working with a group like that and they're doing something practical, instead of you sitting in your place at the table and perhaps leaning across trying to help them, if you walk around the outside of the group and then you're actually behind them and you could help them with their cutting, or you could just point things out as you're moving around all the time.
How many boats have you got?
Two.
Right, what I want you to do, can you all come around the water tray? Can you all place your boats in the water? That's it. What have you noticed about the bottom of the one with the paper?
It's gone all wet.
It's gone all soggy, but if you look at the one with your wax crayons...
It hasn't got soggy.
It hasn't got soggy. And why do you think that is?
Because it's got wet wax on.
It's because it's got wax on, and the wax on the bottom of these boats is resistant to water, so that means that this acts like a barrier against the water.
I thought that was brilliant, the way that you gave a very clear scientific explanation so that they could understand it in their simple sort of language. But you did introduce things like barrier and waterproof and terms like that. How do you think you could have possibly expanded on that?
I'm not too sure, I'm not sure.
Well, that's okay. You asked the question, and I think you gave them perhaps about half a dozen seconds or so to answer, and then Courtney came up with something. Perhaps you could have tried to have brought the other children into the conversation. What does yours feel like, Leon? If you were going to do that sort of thing again, how might you modify it a little bit, do you think?
I think it went well, but to modify it, I would actually maybe have like pre-cut templates for them so they don't have to worry about cutting the tabs off, or positional skills of where having to cut outside when some of the boys cut on the inside instead. And like I did at the end of that lesson, moving them away from the water tray to do the conclusion instead of having them stood around and being distracted by wanting to play more.
That's really good, and I'm pleased that you're thinking about it and being reflective in your teaching. And I'm sure that if you did do that sort of activity again, you know, that you would be able to improve it. So that's really good, well done. There are various strategies we use when supporting the students. We try and not be too critical, but try and be as positive as possible. And an important way that a student can learn is through observation. So I would start by encouraging my students to sit back and actually watch me do the teaching, and I might give them a specific focus to try and encourage them to watch certain strategies that I'm using in class. Do you think, can you hear that sound? Yeah, great. So where will Georgia put this?
In the
In the middle of the ring, because it's got an sound in it. Well done, Georgia.
Another strategy that is used is the head teacher comes to observe one of the activities that I've planned for. I think that's a really good way, because you're not just having the feedback from the class teacher, you're having it from another person's perspective. And so they might notice something that the class teacher might not, and so it gives you more areas for development.
Mentoring can actually help develop your own CPD by making you more reflective about your own practice. It's also quite nice to have the opportunity to sit back and observe your own class when the student is leading the teaching. And also, it's quite interesting to watch a student doing something that you do every day without a moment's thought, and you see them struggling to deliver, and it makes you realise that actually you're quite a skillful practitioner yourself, and you don't realise how skillful it is to do the everyday things that you're doing.